The photometric plant at Thuddungra Mine consists of a series of interconnected conveyors, scrubbers and crushers. A contractor and another worker had just repaired the PS7 conveyor, and a decision was made to test it by operating it under load. This required rock product to be fed through the plant, which included the PS25 conveyor and the PS24 reciprocating feeder. The injured worker started the plant, but noticed that the conveyor belt was not moving. He thought that this was due to a buildup of product on the belt. Blockages were common throughout the plant, and the worker usually used a high-pressure hose to loosen clogged product, causing plant stoppages. The injured worker obtained a hose and began walking towards the blocked chute in order to clear it. The injured worker attempted to activate the conveyor's emergency stop by pulling on its lanyard. He wrongly believed that this would isolate power to the conveyor. However, the lanyard was stretched and the emergency stop did not activate. The feeder continued to operate. The other worker entered a loader to transfer product from a nearby stockpile into the hopper. He was unaware that the belt was not moving. The contractor had remained near conveyor 7. The injured worker walked up on some built-up product located at the side of the conveyor and onto some loose material on the top of the conveyor guard. He slipped on the material and fell forward into the conveyor chute. The injured worker attempted to stand up, but the feeder which was in operation knocked him down. He landed on his back and became covered in the product feeding from the hopper above. The other worker heard the injured worker's screams and went to his aid. The injured worker was completely buried by product except for his head and one hand. The other worker pulled the emergency lanyard located on the side of the conveyor. However, the emergency stop did not activate, and the feeder continued to move product onto the injured worker. The other worker went to an isolation point beneath the feeder and switched it off. The other worker and contractor then dug the injured worker out by hand. It took over 15 minutes to free him. The investigation identified that the incident occurred because of the following. A poor hopper design caused product to spill into adjacent areas during loading. The width of the hopper, 3,510 mm, was only marginally wider than the FLT buckets, 3,280 mm, used to feed the material into the hopper, resulting in spillage over the sides of the hopper and onto the conveyor and ground beneath. Continued production during wet periods caused product processed in the plant to become sticky, leading to blockages. Poor housekeeping resulted in loose material building up around the conveyor. Failing to assess and manage risks associated with the operation of plant meant that the injured worker did not have an appreciation of the dangers associated with the work he was performing. Poor practices regarding plant pre-start inspections resulted in the plant being operated despite the existence of known mechanical and electrical faults. Failing to develop safe procedures resulted in workers developing ad hoc methods to clear blockages in the plant. Failing to isolate plant energy sources resulted in the feeder loading product onto the worker after he fell into the chute. Failing to maintain emergency stopping systems caused the feeder to continue operating despite the efforts of a responding worker to stop it. Failing to connect sensors to the plant's programmable logic controller resulted in the continued operation of the conveyor and feeder during the incident, and ineffective supervision resulted in workers performing tasks in an unsafe manner. Mine operators should ensure that they have identified and assessed all hazards associated with the use of conveyor systems. Review mechanical principle control plans to ensure that the risks to health and safety associated with the use of conveyor systems are eliminated wherever reasonably practicable, or minimized if the risks cannot be eliminated. Ensure that plant is electrically isolated at its central isolation point and locked out using padlocks, multi-padlock hasps, and danger tags before work is performed. Ensure that control systems are correctly configured to ensure the controlled plant comes to a safe stop in the event of an emergency. Ensure that fixed guarding is in place on conveyors to prevent access to and contact with moving parts. Guarding should comply with AS/NZS 4024.1, Safety of Machinery Series. Ensure that emergency plant stop devices are maintained and tested regularly. Ensure that the areas around conveyor systems are well maintained and effectively drained. Provide adequate information, training and instructions to protect workers from risks to health and safety while working near conveyor systems. Effectively supervise workers when working near dangerous plant and equipment such as conveyors and reciprocating feeders. And regularly consult with workers to identify if dangerous practices are being used. Workers should follow electrical isolation procedures, never climb on or near conveyor systems, and always maintain situational awareness when working near moving mining equipment and fixed plant. To learn more about this incident and other New South Wales Resources Regulator causal investigations, visit www.resourcesregulator.nsw.gov.au.